Right. Here we are.
Yes, it's great to be here. How's everyone doing out there tonight? It is Monday, June 2nd, and I'm so excited. It's finally June. We are in Virginia Beach, and June is the beginning of the best 3 or 4 months in this area. Welcome to our live. My name is John Gardner. This is my wife and law partner, Radlin Mendoza, and we are the immigration law firm Gardner and Mendoza. We come to you every Monday night to give you immigration updates and to answer your questions. We do it every night, every Monday from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock. And it's great to be here.
Absolutely.
We've been off for a few weeks. So,
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Feeling a little rusty. I don't know about you.
Oh, no. Never
like,
rusty.
I feel like there's been a little fumbling on the intro there already, but that's okay. That's okay. Can't look back. We just keep looking forward, just like we do with immigration. All right?
Absolutely. And hello to our friends on TikTok.
That's right.
How's it going, guys? Join, say hello, put your questions in. We're ready to rock and roll and answer your questions today and give you some immigration updates as well.
That's right. We simulcast with TikTok, and that's where a lot of our questions come from.
Yes, so, most of our questions.
Hello to all you TikTok folks out there. Hey, one thing I want to warn you about before we go any further here is that what we do here is for entertainment and information purposes only. It is not legal advice, okay? Not legal advice, because we're just getting snippets of information here, and we're doing our best to give you a good answer based on what we know. But obviously, we can't know all the facts of your case, and the law, especially immigration law, is extremely fact specific. And so, in order for us to really give you legal advice, obviously, you have to be a client. And when you do that, we do a very, very deep dive into all the facts of your case, and we make sure we don't miss anything. So
100%. So let's see here. We have Seki's asking how to ask a question. Yes, you can just go ahead and type that in. That'd be perfect. And I'm trying to share here to my personal Facebook page.
Yeah, we've got some, we'll wait for some questions to start to load up here. Some of the things we do here, we give you some immigration updates. One thing that I would like to update everyone on is a couple of cases I've gotten to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been a little mixed on these immigration cases, but I would say that from what I'm seeing, it's trending in favor of the administration starting to rack up some wins. A lot of these lower court injunctions are getting overturned. And so, that big deportation case, they got a lot of attention. The Supreme Court didn't like the Alien Enemies Act being used as a grounds for removing people. And that one, they sided with the lower courts. But after that, it hasn't been so great. We've got a couple of big cases. One that will allow for the parole program that Biden put in place for about 500,000 people to be basically reversed. It's going to be ended. Another program that allowed
500,000 people.
Yeah, 300,000 people. And, I was reading some of these, the opinions, and, for those of you who are interested, that the rationale here from the courts is that essentially that, the Biden administration had put some of these programs into place, and their theory was that there was so much strain on the border that they couldn't, address anything on the border because there were so many people there. And so what they were doing is trying to bypass, allowing people to parole in without going through the border. So they were bringing them in other ways. And the court seems to be inclined to believe now that since the border is no longer in a crisis situation, that there's really no need for the programs. And so they have basically greenlit the removal of, like Radlin said, it's about a half a million people. And these countries specifically were Cuba, Haiti, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Those are the biggies. And there was a court out of Massachusetts, a lower court, who also, she had a judge there who had ruled that with all these removal cases that you couldn't do a group. It had to be basically a case by case due process situation. And the Supreme Court ruled unanimously against that. Did not give a reason. It was an unsigned order, but said no, it can go en masse. And so, this may not directly affect some of you out there, but if you're following immigration news, I think it's kind of, to me, reading the tea leaves, the writing is on the wall that we're going to see more deference to the executive branch. I think the Supreme Court seems inclined to want to allow the administration to have more leeway in what it's doing. And so early on, that early case, it looked like maybe it wasn't going to be the situation, but that's my read of it right now.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Yeah, time will
We
tell.
will see. And the big disruption, of course, with deporting 500,000 people, 350,000 Venezuelans, is that approximately the numbers, is going to be, everyone still deserves their day in court, right? What is that going to look like? I mean, you still have to go through removal proceedings. What's that going to look like? That's one thing to think about. And the other thing is, these are all people who they have work authorization. Maybe not everyone, but a large majority of these folks have work authorization, and the companies that employ them, especially, we've got factories, we've got agriculture. Some of these companies are employing a large percentage of these folks who are here with work authorization, and that's going to cause quite a disruption to companies. And they're not just small companies, they're very large companies with hundreds of employees that may fall under this category. So it will be interesting to see what happens, and we will absolutely keep you posted on everything that may flow from these decisions.
Right. The 350,000 was a TPS program for Venezuelans.
Yeah, right.
So the 500,000 is not including that. This is a whole nother subset as well.
So the interesting thing about these court decisions, especially like with the Supreme Court and courts of appeals or whatever, is like, what is the practical, what's going to actually happen? Like, how are we going to actually remove 850,000 people? And they don't really get into that. So it's not just from some reading a bunch of decisions as law students and as attorneys. I mean, it's not, they don't get into the facts of the cases.
Yeah, the Supreme Court is an interesting place. It's a very, it's a secluded place, and you're right. They're really not. Their role is not to sort of think about the mechanics of how we will carry things out or how the administration will, or any administration, but just to make rulings. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. But I think it's pretty clear the administration has been wanting to ramp up removals, and they just got a couple of really big assists from the Supreme Court in both of these cases. Basically, a green light to move forward. No question about it.
Okay, well, appreciate that update.
Yeah, and the reason I think that this is important and significant, I don't want to just spend too much more time on it, is again just that it could be a harbinger of things to come, because the Alien Enemies Act was the case that the Supreme Court didn't like, but that was a much bigger stretch than what these are. These are basically just, Biden era policies that were put in place, and Trump has been pretty vocal that he was going to reverse them, and some lower court judges slowed it down, but it looks pretty clear now to me that the Supreme Court is going to allow a lot of deference there. And so, yeah, I would not be shocked if we see more basis for removal coming forward and the courts continuing to say it's okay.
Yeah, I think you're wrong. They pump the brakes.
They could. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining TikTok and all the gifts and the flowers and everything else. Love seeing that interaction. Now, my eyes are so bad, so I wish I could say hello to every one of you. Queen of Hap joined. Hello.
Did you say hi to City Girl? City Girl's there.
City Girl's there. Yes. Yeah. So there are some comments, and I saw that somebody became a naturalized U.S. citizen. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's got to feel really good and take a weight off of your shoulders if that's something that you've been working on. So that we segue right into the first question. It's from Seki Banji. The facts here: I filed for naturalization under the basis of being married to a U.S. citizen 2 weeks ago. My husband is active duty military and will be stationed in Mississippi starting in July. But I plan to stay in Virginia to keep my job. As part of our application, we submitted joint property ownership as evidence of our marital relationship. However, we're now planning to sell the house and we'll be living in separate states. I believe the question got cut off here, Seki, is how much will living separately without joint property? And I think you're going to talk about joint property. So this is something, Seki, that I do need to revisit, but I believe the language is married and living together for 3 years at the time of filing your application. Now, I don't want to answer this question and lead you in the wrong direction, but from just my memory, and I have not worked with this question in a really long time. And as John mentioned, everyone, that this is not legal advice. It's for informational and educational purposes only. This is something that we would dig into, but again, the language is when you're filing based on marriage to U.S. citizen, and we're talking about maybe filing early here, Seki, doing 3 years after you've got your green card as opposed to the 5 years. Then we have to show that the couple has been married and living together for the past 3 years. And so from the time of filing, now Seki's already filed it. They're still living together, and husband is moving to Mississippi in July, and so you could be okay. But the joint property ownership is great. Now, the fact that you have sold the property, that's okay. It still does show that that's where you all lived. You may want to also submit joint tax returns to show that you have the same address there on your tax return. And a lot of times we also submit driver's licenses, and because your husband is in the military, he may have a different address, different state, which he's allowed to do. But we're showing the address, the residence, right? We're not necessarily showing bona fide marriage generally. We're showing bona fide, and we want to show bona fide marriage specifically to were you guys actually living together in the same location without any separation for the 3 years. So hopefully that answers your question, Seki. I would welcome you to give our office a call and consult with us regarding this. And you don't have your interview yet. Well, let's see here. I think she just filed for, I'm not sure when you filed, but it is definitely something that is going to come up at your interview, and you need to be prepared for that. But again, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about that language from the time of filing. So you may be okay, but give us a call. We'll be happy to consult with you and represent you at your interview if that's something that you need our assistance with.
Yeah,
all right.
Great question.
Great question. Yep.
Great question. And we get a lot of questions like this. For one thing, we're in Virginia Beach, which is right next to Norfolk, which is still the largest Navy base, I think, in the world. And so we have a lot of clients who are in the military, a lot of folks that are overseas, and just a lot of cases that involve, couples that for reasons that they can't control, they can't always be together all the time. And so there are some things that come up with, is this going to look weird that we blah, 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 blah. And, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And when yes, we just have to figure out another way around it.
Yeah. And basically the issue is that may come up at your interviews. Okay, why are you guys not living together? Right. So your husband is going to be stationed in Mississippi. Presumably you're able to go with him and, be there while he's stationed there. You're choosing to stay in Virginia to keep your job. That's okay. That's totally fine. But you have to show that, right? You still have to show that relationship. Now, this is not an I-751. It's not for the green card. You guys have already established that. But those questions are definitely going to still come up. Not definitely, but likely to come up at your interview, your N400 interview. So you got to be prepared for those as well.
Yeah. Sticking in Virginia for your job. We understand.
Right. And it's going to be, maybe for a financial reason. Maybe your husband's only going to be there for 18 months. Maybe you have a really good job and you guys are planning to relocate after he retires back to Virginia. So there could be a variety of reasons. Just be ready. You are so welcome. All right, let's grab the next question here on TikTok.
Yeah, so we got the first question here on TikTok. And before we actually get to the question, it segues perfectly into another, it's basically a question about J1s. And maybe you could explain a little bit about what's going on with this. Do a little, Radlin, as I told you at the beginning here, our office is physically located in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And this J1 situation has come up, the suspension of J1s and cancellation and so forth. And all the local news agencies down here, print and television, have been calling Radlin and interviewing her. So she's been all over the news the last couple of days answering questions about this very issue. So maybe you can tell everyone what you know about it, and then answer the quick question, which is, are J1 teachers affected by Trump's suspension of scheduled visa interviews for international J1 students?
What's the name of that person?
That is
Duggar
Melissa.
Yeah, Duggar Melissa. Okay, so what recently happened a few days ago is that there was a State Department cable that was leaked. It was released, and I believe that it has been confirmed that yes, that is a State Department cable, essentially halting interviews for F1s, M1s, and J1s. And what that means is if you're an applicant and you've applied, right, you've completed your application online, and the last step of your process is to go to your F1, M1, or J1 interview at consulate abroad or embassy abroad, then there are no appointments available. They have taken the appointments away if there were appointments available, and they're not adding any new appointments, of course, and it's basically on hold until further guidance by the State Department. And the reason is because they want to basically instill a more rigorous process in vetting each applicant's social media. So they're looking for terrorism, anything that could be considered, that you would be a part of a terrorist group or supporting a terrorist group like Hamas, right? Anything that's anti-Semitic on your social media. So anything that, and those are the hot button issues right now. So there's going to be just again, a more robust vetting of all the applicants' social media accounts. I don't know what that's going to look like, but these visas are halted for now until the State Department figures that out. And the question here is, this person, Duggar Melissa, maybe she's a J1 teacher and she already has her J1. She's a teacher here in the United States. And is this going to affect her and her fellow teachers? And no, that it is not going to affect her. It does not affect renewals. And it doesn't affect anyone who already is in the United States on a J1 visa. It's just for brand new applicants that are going to have that extra social media vetting. So that's brings us to social media, right? What's on your social media? Many people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of permanent residents, people who have gotten their green cards, and we do a post green card interview with them. And, I talk to them about when they remove their conditions or applying for U.S. citizenship in the future. An extra added thing that I ask and that our team asks is, what does your social media look like? Have you been out there protesting? Have you been posting it? And again, there are two schools of thought here. Like this falls under my speech. It's free speech. It's protected under the First Amendment. But as a permanent resident, you have to be really careful, if you are engaged in the activity, and are you crossing any type of line that someone is going to say you crossed the line, like, right? It's hard to tell what that line is, but you just have to be careful. And again, these people their applications are on hold, no interviews. And for those of you who have tried to schedule an interview for any type of visa, when you're looking for a slot, you're looking, and there's nothing available. So what's going to happen is, you may not be able to start in the fall if you haven't already gotten your your F1. You may not be able to work in the summertime as a J1 visa holder, an applicant, if you have not already gone to your visa appointment. So that's going to happen in large amounts. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and the local news agencies, the reason they've all been seeking Radlin out to ask her about this is because this J1 situation is a really, really big deal where we are, because Virginia Beach is a huge beach town tourist area,
Right.
and only 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the traffic up the road, is Colonial Williamsburg, another massive tourist destination. So what does that have to do with J1s? Because a lot of people that are in the tourism industry hire a lot of folks on J1s for all kinds of things. So, when you're at Busch Gardens, when you're at a hotel down at the ocean front, there's a very good chance that a lot of the people that are working
Yep.
are on J1s. And so this could have a huge impact on us here locally, which is why they were all trying to figure out, oh no, does this mean the hotels are going to have to close down? So Busch Gardens going to have to go to 50% capacity because we're losing half of our workforce.
Right. And and we with J1 specifically, there are different waves because there are different seasons. So the ski industry in the wintertime, I mean, they really rely heavily on J1 students, and they man the ski lifts, right? And so that you could see that the impact there in the coming months. So we'll see, and we'll continue to report back to you.
Okay, Brown Eagle here says, and I'll go ahead and handle this one. The Ninth Circuit says, the Ninth Circuit, my case remanded to BIA, and then the BIA remanded to immigration court. What could be next? This is kind of like a legal structure question. Basically, for those of you who don't know, and for you, Brown, when you have a case that gets appealed in any court, the next court up has a choice. They can either actually rule on your case, and then it's over one way or the other, and you can appeal or not appeal, or they can remand it, meaning they make some decisions about something in the case, but they send it back to the lower court and say, hey, now that you know this part of it that we just ruled on, now go ahead and rehear it based on what we've just clarified for you. And that, this can happen over and over again, by the way. And so if you had something that went to the Board of Immigration Appeals and then went up to the Ninth Circuit, then the Ninth Circuit ruled on something and said, hey, based on what we've decided, BIA now re-decide it. And BIA said, oh, well, based on what we now know, we're going to send it back to immigration court to be reheard. So what's likely going to happen is you're going to get a new case in immigration court with whatever new rules or clarification has occurred from the Ninth Circuit.
Nice. Well put.
And of course, it's always subject to change. That's the thing. This immigration right now is really, really fluid. There's just literally hundreds of legal challenges going on across the country for all kinds of things. They're all in various states of appeal, and only a handful have gone all the way to the Supreme Court so far. And so we're starting to get some rulings out of there, and we're sort of seeing the shape that all of this is going to take.
Yes. All right. I'll take the next question here. Is my cousin Roy. Are green card holders subject to be detained for tax reasons? And if so, what type of reasons? So if we're talking about not paying taxes or behind on taxes or having a payment plan with the IRS, no, those are just all regular procedural things that you can deal with the IRS. Of course, if there's any type of tax fraud, that's a different story, right? Permanent residents are still deportable. And if you are charged with a crime like tax evasion or tax fraud, then that is something where you can actually be put in removal proceedings if you are convicted. But, just things that we all kind of do with the IRS, right? We ask for an extension. We file, our clients ask for an extension. They have a letter of extension to show that you've asked for an extension to file your taxes. Or we have clients who owe back taxes and they have a payment plan with the IRS. Those things are not going to basically be a problem with immigration. In fact, when our clients naturalize and they have this, they actually, we can show the payment plan and they can still naturalize. So hopefully that answered your question, cuz.
I hope you're not getting audited. That's no fun.
Yeah, that would be bad. So we can unplug this right here, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I just.
Oh, this is not the camera, is it? This right here. This is the one.
This one right here is the
Okay.
phone. I'm gonna take that one out now.
Okay. We have a little charging situation.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. All right. Oh, what's the next question on TikTok?
Carla says, "Hi. I came when I was 1 illegally. Now I am married and I got my I-130 approved. What's next?"
This is Carla, right?
Yep.
So, Carla, there, a lot of follow-up questions, right? And again, I invite you to give our office a call and make an appointment. Our number is 757-464-9224. So if a person has entered the United States undocumented, right? They came into the United States without inspection. Carla didn't walk across the border by herself, right? She was 1 year old and she was brought by her parents or another family member. So she was brought into the United States. Wasn't her choice, right? And she's undocumented. That's very unfortunate. It's a reality for hundreds of thousands of people here in the United States. But anyhow, now Carla is married. And did Carla say she's married to a U.S. citizen? Let's just assume Carla is married to a U.S. citizen. And the question is, okay, I filed the I-130 petition, which is the very first step of this process. Now what I do in order to get permanent residency here in the United States? So the answer to that question, Carla, really depends on a couple of things. Number one, is there any way that you can adjust status here in the United States? Was your spouse ever in the military and not dishonorably discharged? You may be eligible for parole in place, which would allow you to adjust your status in the United States. You've been here since you were 1 year old. I don't know how old you are now, but are you grandfathered under 245I, La Ley de la Multa, which would allow you to adjust your status if you are grandfathered under that law? And so that means somebody would have had to file a petition for your parents while you were, or you, on or before April 30th of 2001. So that was 24 years ago. And even if that petition for your parents didn't go anywhere, if it was abandoned, you could still be grandfathered under 245I. And again, I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you were here for that type of thing, or if anyone would have filed for you. But I say parents just because when I think about people getting married, I think about younger people. Now I shouldn't think about younger people necessarily because older people get married too. So anyhow, there are just a lot of different follow-up questions that I would have, but those are the two main things where you may be eligible for adjustment of status. And if that's the case, then we would file the I-45, the green card application with you, along with work authorization. And your spouse would have to do an affidavit of support on your behalf. And you would have to get a medical. So there's a whole host of things to do if you are eligible to file adjustment of status. Now, guys, listen up. If you're not eligible to file for adjustment of status, obviously don't file it, right? Because there are two problems here. Number one, if you're undocumented, then that kind of puts you in the the world of USCIS. Like, you filed your I-130 petition already, so they have your information. But when you're filing an adjustment of status, I do believe that takes it a step further. And so if you're not eligible, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to come and knock on your door? Another question is, have you registered as a person who's undocumented here in the United States? So this question has a lot of different things that could go wrong, but there are a couple of things that actually could go right. If provisional waiver stays, and we're not sure if provisional waiver will still be available, then you could be eligible for provisional waiver. So anyhow, give us a call, Carla. We'll be happy to consult with you and see what your eligibility is and how we can move forward with your case and getting you permanent residency here in the United States. But great question.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize something that Radlin said, which is that, there are some cases where you don't want to move forward. I mean, we file immigration cases all the time. That's what we do. But there are situations where, based on your facts, it's better to just not do anything. And so it's really important to consult with an immigration expert to make sure that you're not inadvertently putting yourself in a worse position than you were already in before you filed anything.
Yep. Okay.
All right,
So it's
Baron,
yeah.
Baron just naturalized. I am an American. Yay. Congratulations.
Let's clap.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Okay. Arlene has a question here. Good question. So Arlene says, I petitioned my unmarried daughter in the Philippines. An application was approved in 2012. We received from NVC an interview for July 7, 2025. She just got married last year. How do I proceed? In 2020, NVC had me update all documents submitted in 2012 and paid the fees again. It sounded like that the wait was going to be a few more months. However, it has been 5 years. Was the delay caused by the Biden administration granting hundreds of temporary visas in 2020 to 2024? No, it was not. That was not the delay. Basically, when you file a petition for your unmarried daughter and you're a U.S. citizen, right? Let's assume that you are a U.S. citizen. The wait, and your daughter's from the Philippines. The wait is long. It's a very long wait until a visa is available, right? And so, just because you filed the petition and that petition was approved in 2012 does not mean that you can move forward with the case, because you have to wait for a visa to become available. So it sounds like, your I-130 petition was approved in 2012, and you received an interview, NVC, for an interview for July of 2025. That is the visa bulletin there, and that was the most likely the reason for that delay. I don't really see it as a delay. It's more of like the visa is not available, right? So now we have a situation where your daughter got married last year. So what does that do? It even puts her in a longer wait. So if she got married, she's now knocked down to the third preference category, which is a longer wait, unfortunately. And we have to assess whether there's something else where they can immigrate here to the United States that's going to take fewer years, because if you file, I mean, it's getting really into the weeds here. And Miss Bradley, I know that you contacted our office, so I'm familiar with these facts. And we, basically, you filed the I-130. Your daughter was unmarried. She got married during this process. She's going to move to a longer wait, because she's now the married daughter of a U.S. citizen. And there may be other things that are available for your daughter and your son-in-law, but she's no longer in the category that would allow her to go to that interview on July 7th and get the immigrant visa, because she's now married. So that's unfortunate news that that is the case. Again, I don't have every single detail, but I am familiar with the facts. And essentially, she gets knocked into a longer category. That's the bottom line, because she is married. So is she penalized for this process, during this process, for getting married? Yes, she is penalized for that. And the reason is because they're just the visa categories, right? It's not as favorable of a category as the the F2A category. And it's just the numbers. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm sorry to have to break that news to you, but it's going to be a longer wait.
Speaking of waits, Maliko666 says my immigration lawyer takes 6 months for prepping a straightforward case. Can I get the money back?
I mean, you'd have to talk to your immigration lawyer about that.
That's between you and your immigration lawyer, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't. I don't even want to comment because I have no idea what the circumstances are. So.
Yeah, I mean that's something where you should try to make an appointment with your attorney, have a heart to heart, and say, "Hey, look, not sure why this took 6 months," and then ask yourself, were you part of the problem? I mean, did you get the documents to your lawyer and timely? Were they correct? Was there a lot of back and forth? And kind of look at it on all sides. And if they filed it, then they filed it. So the time to get the money back is before they filed it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Jack here says my case was recalendared for a master hearing in October, and now my VAWA has been approved. What options do I have?
Okay, it was recalendared for master hearing in October.
8 months ago.
Well, you need to, if you don't already have an immigration attorney to represent you, since your case was recalendared, you may need to try to do a motion to terminate based on this approved VAWA, so you can apply for adjustment of status. So we do actually do motions, and we don't represent people in court, like appear in court, but we do a lot of motion work before the immigration court. So reach out to us if you think we can help you. Give us a call, 757-464-9224. You can also take a look on the TikTok link.
Well, you can email us info@gmlaw.net.
Yeah, we have really annoying ticker on Facebook where just all this information is going.
It's kind of like watching the news where the stock market is down there, where you always see what the Dow Jones Industrial Average is doing, or NASDAQ. Looks like Arlene had a short follow-up there.
Arlene, no, you don't apply to petition for her now as under the married status because you are a U.S. citizen. What you have to do is inform National Visa Center of her civil status change, that she's now married, and then they're going to put her in the third F3 category. So, Ms. Bradley, the reason why we did not meet with you is because we did not want to charge you a consultation fee. Actually, it was a strategy session to tell you that your daughter was going to be bumped down to the F3 category. So I felt bad about that, but I just didn't want you to spend the money. And I mean, if there are other ways, right? If your daughter and son-in-law, they want to open up a business in the United States, they can get an E2 visa potentially. If they are people who could find jobs here in the United States where the positions could get petitioned for by employers. I mean, it's tough to do. It is a possibility though, but those were going to be the things that we talked to you about during the strategy session. So, all right.
We're getting a lot of great stuff here on TikTok too, with the roses and the gifts.
Thank you. Yeah. Bright Wings. Appreciate that. And guys, please like and follow and share. If there might be people out there who have the same questions that you do, and it would be helpful for them to get this information and even to be able to ask a question. So please like, follow, and share. We would love the support, and we would love to help more people.
Okay. So Bright Wings wants to know, can I renew my green card with a DWI misdemeanor, non-aggravated, happened 7 years ago? Thank you.
Yes, most likely. So again, not legal advice, right? Bright Wings, before really going through with anything like that, if you were our client, right, we would want to see the certified disposition of that DWI. I mean, you're saying that it's not aggravated. I totally believe you.
But
but we do like to see a piece of paper, right,
Mm.
showing that with a judge's signature. And again, the reason for taking this extra precaution is we don't want to put our clients in harm's way. So, we have cases where right now we're holding them. We're holding them before we file the I-90 to get the client the green card because there are some issues. And again, we don't want to put our clients in harm's way. Now, you're probably like, I need a green card that I want to be able to carry a green card with me. Of course, because that's the law. You have to have your green card on your person now. I mean, that's always been the case, but especially now. But again, we have to weigh that sometimes, right? Like we don't want to put you in harm's way if your criminal conviction is going to open up a whole can of worms. And not only are you not going to get your 10-year green card renewed, but you are also getting referred to the immigration judge and going through removal proceedings, right? Or worse, you're convicted of something where it's mandatory detention. Anyway.
Listen, folks, we think that everybody who's doing an immigration case should hire an immigration lawyer. I mean, that's just, we're immigration lawyers, immigration law firm. And I understand you're probably like, oh yeah, of course you do. But it's just so important. It's like, taxes. It's like hiring somebody to do your taxes. You can do them yourself, but that's really not the best route to go because there are things that you don't even know what you don't know. You don't even know what you're doing wrong. But with that said, if you have any criminal record at all,
You're right. Yep.
This becomes like magnified 100 times. Because if you have any criminal record at all, your case automatically, in my opinion, is per se a complicated case that really needs to be thoroughly analyzed by an immigration attorney for the reasons that Radlin just mentioned. You don't want to go in to do something that you think is routine because you think you know what the criminal conviction was all about and how it will affect your immigration case, only to find out that you were wrong and that you're not going to be renewing anything. You're actually going to be put in removal proceedings and maybe in mandatory detention. And now you're wishing that you had just not done the whole thing in the first place. And if you had consulted with a professional like us, we would have told you that. So you really need to be careful because here's the funny thing that happens. Okay. We have this odd legal system in the United States where we have all these different states, right? And we have one country, or the United States, all the states, correct? Criminal law is all state law. So every state has their own criminal code, how they define things. Everything is defined in their own state criminal code. So what constitutes one kind of a crime in Virginia may not be the same in Mississippi, may not be the same in California. But immigration law is federal. So there's just one blanket federal immigration law that applies across the board to all the states. No matter what state you're in, when you go through an immigration process, you're going through federal law. Why do I say all this? Because if you have a criminal conviction at the federal level, there's this process that goes on where there has to be an analysis to see whether your criminal conviction fits certain criteria to fit in the box correctly for the federal definition of what makes you removable or mandatory detention or whatever.
Yeah.
And it either fits in that box or it doesn't. But since every state is different, you never really know unless you've got a professional analyzing how your conviction will be analyzed under the federal immigration law. Okay. So if you have any criminal record, man, I'm telling you, call an immigration lawyer. Hopefully it's us. If it's not us, find somebody that knows what they're doing who can properly advise you. And hi, Mom. I just saw my mom said, hi, guys.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mama. How you doing?
Yeah, what John said. I mean, it is just vitally important. And you had a very, very simple, straightforward question. And it turned into that. It turned into that explanation and warning, really. I think you will be okay. But, you know, the question I have for you, Bright Wings, is why not apply for citizenship, right? This was 7 years ago. It's outside of the good moral character period. Again, think about these things. You are, you know, renewing. And I made a video on TikTok last week or whenever, and it's just like, why are you renewing your green card when you can apply for U.S. citizenship? Like, what are your reasons for not applying for U.S. citizenship? And I'm not going to get on my apply and become a U.S. citizen soapbox. I'm not going to do it. But watch that video. Why? Why are we renewing it because we have this DWI, not aggravated? We don't think we're going to become a U.S. citizen. We're not ready for the test. You know, what are the reasons? We don't have the money to do it. I mean, all of those are not good reasons to not consult with an immigration attorney about your potential eligibility for applying for U.S. citizenship. And we do have more people applying for U.S. citizenship because they are making that decision. Like, I'm not going to be afraid for the next 4 years because I'm a permanent resident. You know, it's time for me to become a U.S. citizen. I'm not going back to my country, whatever other tales that I tell in my mind about not applying for U.S. citizenship. And you know, it's very important right now. It's for your security. And find out, you know, just find out, are you eligible to become a permanent a U.S. citizen instead of renewing again to get your 10-year green card? I mean, some people can't; they're not eligible for U.S. citizenship, right, for whatever reason. So,
but this is one of the main reasons people don't naturalize, is because we get it. Things are, you're comfortable, you're in a comfort zone, you have what you have, you know what you know, you do what you do, and when you think about naturalizing, you think, that's
a test.
Yeah.
They're going to open up my whole file.
They're going to be looking at my stuff again. You know, what if they find something and what if they say, oh my gosh, you never should have had this green card in the first place or something,
yeah,
you know,
right.
They just worry. You worry about it because you just are comfortable with what you have and you don't want to upset the apple cart or, you know, rock the boat in any way and cause a problem. And that's totally understandable, but that's why you should just contact an immigration lawyer who can like analyze it carefully and then let you have some peace. Like, no, you're totally 100% fine. And we're going to file this thing and it's going to go great. And you're going to be a U.S. citizen. You're going to be like Barron celebrating who was on here earlier.
Naturalized U.S. citizen now.
Or they're going to tell you, hey, you know what? It's a good thing you called us because you've actually got
a problem,
a minefield out there, and you were about to step on a mine and have a major problem, but we're going to not let you do that. We're going to just have you renew it and just do what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why you need an immigration lawyer.
Yep, absolutely. So, and I will, you know, just one more, a little bit more about this, and it's a case that has been really featured on social media and just in the news, and it was a person, an applicant. He was applying for U.S. citizenship. Yay, happy day! I'm applying for U.S. citizenship, permanent resident for several years, has a wife and children, and you know, this gentleman's, you know, fairly young. You know, anybody under 50 is young to me. You know, so he applied for U.S. citizenship, all right, and I don't believe he had an attorney, and he was arrested and detained. And everybody was like, why? Why was this guy? Look, he looks like a totally family man. He's been a green card holder for, you know, for all these years. Why was he arrested? What was going on there? So what happened was he got a 2-year green card based on marriage to his wife and didn't forget. He didn't know to remove the conditions on his 2-year green card. You know, life happens. Like he just let that thing lapse. And what happened was he moved around with his family, or he moved with his family, and USCIS put him in removal proceedings. He did not go to court. He was ordered removed in absentia, so in his absence. So he had no idea that any of this was happening. He goes to apply for U.S. citizenship, and boom, he's arrested. He's already been ordered deported. So this is going to be a mess to try to fix this, to try to unwind all of this. And what happened here was completely preventable, right? So if you go into your lawyer's office, you come into our office, well, we do virtual appointments, but so we look at all of your documents. We're going to look. You have a 2-year card. Where's the 10-year card? What 10-year card? Well, you were supposed to file the I-751 after you got this 2-year card. Oh, I didn't do that. Well, before we apply for citizenship, we have to do the I-751, or we look to see, oh man, you've already been referred to the immigration judge. We need to do a motion to reopen and try to fix this, right? So these are cases that are really high profile. You're just they're sad cases. But when you look at the facts, or when I look at the facts as an immigration lawyer, totally preventable, right? The error was totally preventable. So, all right, I did actually do the lecture thing. Sorry, guys.
Can you all on TikTok let me know if this connection has gotten any better? We had a whole bunch of comments that there was no sound, that we were frozen, and that the connection was bad. How about on Facebook? Can anybody? Are we having any connection issues?
Okay. Why is that? Why is it? Are we not connected to Wi-Fi? Guys on TikTok, if Bright Eyes, I think it was Bright Eyes, right? If you didn't hear any of that, come to our Facebook and you can rewatch it because it is important.
They're saying it's still frozen. So we'll check Facebook. Yeah.
Let me just. Okay, we're still on. So let me
y'all can go back to. You can go back to watch this on Facebook. The entire thing will be there.
Right. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, we need to fix that problem.
Yeah.
We need to fix that problem. Okay. Let's grab this question.
It's not funny at all.
No, it's really not funny. This is not funny. Terrible. Yep. Terrible. Bad. Awful. All right.
Sorry about that, folks. That's on us. We will figure out.
If we are still frozen, I don't know. Yeah, everybody's like frozen. So it's on our end.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Y'all should end live and restart. Well, we only have 5 more minutes here, so we're gonna just finish out, folks. Sorry, you can come back to Facebook.
Let's do this refresh. Does that do anything these days? Okay. Perhaps the last question, or do we have any other questions up there, or?
I was reading, Ahmed had a long question that was in like multiple pieces, and basically my final conclusion with it was that you just need to give us a call, because he is one of these folks, sometimes, immigration is like anything else. The post office, the IRS, any large agency, there are times when things go off the rails and things are lost. And Ahmed basically had a case, and then they rescheduled it. Then he got fingerprinted. They told him he's going to come back to another time. And then he got some notice that he didn't show up. And he was like, I was there. Are you kidding me? I literally was there, and you took some fingerprints. And he's like, what can I do? In those cases, you need to contact us and let us start trying to dig in and see if we can get some answers, because cases sometimes do get lost.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we are lawyers. Namangu. All right.
Yeah, might be talking
Leanne.
to somebody else on here, though.
Leanne, hi, attorney. We applied twice before for CRBA, consular reported birth abroad, and got denied twice. Also, the first time we applied, I was still underage, and the second time was I'm already 18 years old. The reason why our application was denied is that we cannot provide the 10-year physical presence of my father, since his first ever passport was missing before, but now we already found it. Is it a wise move to apply again for the first-time passport application for the second time? But I'm not sure if my father's passport, yes.
I'm sorry, you continue reading that and digesting it. Answer 2 questions here. We're based in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and our contact number is 757-464-9224.
And we represent people in all 50 states
and all over the world.
and all over the world.
right.
So everybody's first appointment, everybody's appointments are virtual, and we meet through Zoom.
Yep. 757-464-9224. I just, a couple of people asked for contact info. I want to get it out there in the TikTok. Resume. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Okay. So the question Leanne asks is it a good idea to file again for the CRBA? I think that it's a good idea to file, but I think it's a good idea to file with us as your attorneys. So let us give it a shot.
Yep. 757-464-9224. Palems, I hope you got that time. If you didn't, just
click on the bio.
Keep telling us.
All the information is there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We have another question.
They when we froze and couldn't be heard anymore, the questions sort of dried up.
That's unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay.
But there were some back here. Let me come back and see if I can find one.
Arlene says, thank you very much. You are so welcome. Sorry about that visa bulletin. While John is pulling up that next question, it's unfortunate. It's just so unfortunate that it takes so long for a visa to become available for the unmarried, son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, or the unmarried son or daughter of a lawful permanent resident. I mean, we're talking about 13 years here. Like 13 years, you file a petition for your child, the petition gets approved, and your unmarried son or daughter then have to wait 13 years before a visa becomes available. They're unmarried, right? They're unmarried. What if they're over 21, right? Like you're asking them to put their whole lives on hold of, getting married, having a family together. And what happens in the Philippines, especially, is like there are a lot of people who are living together who are not married and who have children out of wedlock because of the stupid visa bulletin. Did I say stupid?
You did.
Sorry, I didn't mean the stupid visa bulletin. I meant the stupid wait times.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean stupid wait times. I meant the very extremely long, obnoxious wait times. That's what I meant to say. And so, the Philippines is a very religious Catholic country, and you have this situation. Anyway, it's another story for another day. It's very frustrating. I'll take that next question though.
So Melly Go 27 wants to know, good evening. Will it be possible to help my partner get a visa through marriage?
Yes, it is possible. That is what we do.
That's what we do all the time. We obviously would need all the information, but yes.
Absolutely. Reach out to us. We'll be happy to help.
Yep. 757-464-9224.
That is our phone number. And you can also reach out to us on Messenger or send us a DM through TikTok. We'd be happy to help you guys. Okay.
Fizz wants to know, here's not really a question, but married to an LPR, lawful permanent resident, got a green card with pending I-751. My wife had her N-400, and the officer asked me to apply N-400. That's the question.
I'm not sure what that question is. I don't know what the question is.
Yeah, I don't either.
So this person's married to a permanent resident with green card with pending I-751. So the officer was telling you that you can also apply for the N-400 is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, probably. Not telling you that you had to, but maybe just letting you know that it was an option. And Paula wants to know that she said that she is going to be going home to the Philippines in September for 3 months, but she's already a U.S. citizen, but she's still scared. I wouldn't be.
Don't be scared, Paula.
You're a U.S. citizen. You've got nothing to be scared about, okay? Go to the Philippines, have fun,
a good time,
and worry not about your return.
Eat all the
back
halo
to the
halo.
Yep.
Eat all the chow king. Eat all the Jollibee. Okay, it's all about food.
You'll be coming back with your U.S. passport. You'll be getting in the U.S. citizen line, and it will be smooth sailing. No problems, I promise. All right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Was that our last question? Miss Bradley has a follow-up question. Is a sibling petition wait faster? Not as long as F3. It is faster by 2 years, but we already have a priority date for your daughter, so it would be actually slower.
And Not a CD wants to know, is it true that any petty offense sentence less than 6 months does not count for good moral character?
It does, but only for one. So if you have 2, then you cannot use the petty offense exception.
But if you have 1, you're good to go. Okay. We could go all night because now they're starting to come again. I guess our connection must be back. But in any event,
sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Is it
we're
faster
out of time.
We're out of time. Is it faster to get married, sponsored, or married? It depends on who you're marrying. Are you marrying a U.S. citizen? Are you able to do adjustment of status? That would most likely be faster. If you're marrying a permanent resident, maybe not. If you're marrying a non-U.S. citizen or non-permanent resident, then no. Okay.
All right, folks.
All right.
If you
Thank you guys so much. We're not going to be here on Monday. We are going to be here on Wednesday of next week. So there's going to be a day change. We are actually going to slowly change to Wednesday, but next week we will be here on Wednesday.
Right.
So
we will be attending a wonderful charity next Monday, but we will be here on Wednesday. Okay, everyone. Yeah, we could keep going, but we're out of time here. If you haven't grabbed dinner already, like us, go do so. We're going to go eat.
All right. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
Thank you guys so much.
We'll see you next Wednesday.
All righty. Bye-bye.